Good morning, everyone. Welcome to all of you to another amazing topic of conversation. Today, I am honored to have Chantale Milord, and I have to say she's my partner in crime. And we're going to talk about this in a little bit, but I want to introduce an amazing person. Somebody that was able to tell her story, to change the outcome, and also to contribute to change the lives of many, many people, especially children. So Chantale, welcome. It is beyond a pleasure to have you here today. Please tell me a little bit, and everybody that does not know you, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you so much, Gladys, for having me on. It is an honor to share this moment with you. My name is Chantale Milord. I am a master life strategist, result coach, CEO and founder of the amazing Grace Leadership Preparatory Institute. My journey started a few decades ago when I was a teen. I was in distress, like many children who wanted to find their way, and it was foggy. There was so much in the way, and I suffered the worst of almost everything. I became a teen parent at the age of 16. I had a kid not even knowing, even I tell people this story all the time, that when I had sexual intercourse, I didn't even know that would have landed a baby. So a lot of time what happened was that people was judging. There was just so much happening that I became really aggravated and grieved with the world. And I made a decision against reason to change the trajectory of how I engage life, and that I started to get the results that I want. And as a matter of fact, because of that, I created a space for children to do the same, to be able to become independent thinkers, responsible leaders who value their own personal integrity, their innate abilities, as well as their academic achievements. So, and beyond that, I began to expand myself, looking at some of the deficiencies that exist within children, parents, as well as the educators and staff that worked for me. I went to Howard University and just so many other schools to get my certification in becoming a master life strategist, which is a life coach. This is just a little bit about myself.
So wait, I started saying that you're in partnership with me, and
yeah.
The reason that I said that is because Grace Leadership Preparatory Institute is benefiting from the Loving Me More project with the Power of the Heels. Yes. And we already started. We had an introduction with the parents, and our first session is September 9 with the girls. So that is why we have partnered together to disrupt the cycle of poverty and teach these girls everything they need so that they can succeed, be emotionally healthy, successful, and especially financially educated, so that they do not depend on others if they want to change their life.
Where were you, Gladys? Where were you? 3.5 decades.
Oh, where were you? So no, I was very impressed with your school, because coming from the last 4 years that I was able and I was blessed to be part of opening a charter school in Aventura, I went through the whole motion and researching on what private schools, public schools, charter schools, but your school is completely different. You actually give scholarship. The kids need to go through a scholarship program to go. So tell us a little bit about Grace.
So Grace is a private independent school and accredited institution. So much like the public school system and the charter school. A charter school is a little bit, is an extension of the public school, and they're governed by the public school, and they share the same FTE funding and everything else. Although they are somewhat independent, they still have to report their grades to the public school. They still have to follow the same curriculum guidelines, and they pretty much have to mimic everything that the public school does. The difference between us as a private sector, which is a private nonprofit 501c3 organization, is that we have the flexibility. Instead of providing, we have the flexibility of bringing an out-on curriculum that we measure our students based on a specific test. For instance, we use the MAP, the NWEA, so that we are able to see each individual student deficiency and create a growth plan for that individual student need. And so in addition to that, because of the school choice of the state of Florida, there are school choice options such as the AAA scholarship, the Step Up for Students, and the Pride Scholarship, the Hope Scholarship. There are so many scholarships available to help support parents and children who may want to transition out of the charter school or the public school system to come to a private school. And what's different about us as a private, we can teach God, where with the public school, they're not able to per se teach religion or to teach certain things. And there are specific guidelines as to how they conduct business. Where with us, we believe part of what's going to improve the individual student for the future is to provide the soft skills, the artificial intelligence, emotional intelligence, the mental transmutation, and having that individual to understand who they are and what is it about themselves, and taking responsibility for who they are and building on that and cultivating a life with decision-making, communication skills, being able to communicate their difference without it being a fight, conflict resolution, everything that you can think of, self-awareness, emotional awareness, relationship awareness, social awareness. All of those are combined together in our curriculum to help bring awareness to that individual, and that they know that now they have a responsibility as a person to become a positive member of society, and whatever it takes for that person to cultivate a self that they're happy with.
This is amazing. So I know that your journey has led you to the school and to become a life coach. But I want to go a little bit back, beyond getting pregnant and being a mother at 16 and literally not knowing what you were doing. But you were also homeless.
Yes, I was.
So tell us a little bit of what was going through your mind at that moment.
Oh my, I mean, everything less, Gladys, I was homeless, senseless, everything you can think of. I felt like I was less of everything, right? And that's why it's important to have a positive system or community of people to help shape those individual students' mind. And I thank God for you for bringing your program, for collaborating, because it indeed takes a village, right? So when I was homeless or going through all these situations, I felt like, man, where the heck is God? Is there even a God? There should be no reason why one person have to suffer so much trauma, pain, everything that you can name. And I felt I was dejected, rejected, depleted, devoid on so many levels. And that at some point I felt like, what's the aim? What's the point of living? And if this is what living is, my current environment at the time evidently confirmed that I was a failure. I was at the point where there was no way out. When you're homeless, and at the time when I became homeless, I had my second child. And so I was homeless with children, not knowing. And at the time, I was also an immigrant. I did not have papers. Even if I wanted to work, I couldn't work. Even if I wanted to go to college, I became a high school dropout. I mean, all of it, emotionally depleted. Just at that point, I just wanted to end life itself. And so that was that feeling. So, you know, as you asked, what was I feeling? Like, what's the point of living?
But you completely change your way of thought.
Oh my.
You completely changed. Instead of blaming God, you went back to blame yourself for not making decisions.
I actually, and this is why I had to become, like, this is why I went to become a coach, because a lot of time, the suffering that we suffer, at some point, we had control over our circumstances, right? And I also learned that suffering is not necessary for our development, because a lot of people think, well, you know, you're so great today, Chantale, you can coach this person and you have this clientele and you doing this because of all of that you've gone through. And I had to, you know, I learned that suffering is not necessary. And that I could no longer blame God. Blaming God, blaming society, my upbringing, my mom and everyone else was a form of a cop-out. It was a mechanism to excuse me for the poor choices that I had made. And so I made a decision against reason to be unreasonable with all the reasons that I had made to remain in my unhappy condition. People in your community don't come out of this. Those were the reasons that I was making up. This could be your life for the rest of your life. You have to learn to live with it. Those are the reasons. What if I don't make it out? And then one day I had to become unreasonable with all my reasonableness, because those reasons was why I stayed in that solitary confinement within my own mind. And then I was blaming other people for what I was not. And when I start taking responsibility for my own life, I start making better choices. I start making the decisions that would yield me the results that I need in order to elevate myself to the next level.
What clicked?
Pain. Pain. And notice what clicked was that for a very long time, I was waiting for Superman. My God, I watched the movie. I'm like, wait, if he can go for Jane and all these other people, surely he can come for me, right? So in my waiting, Superman never showed up. So I had to go.
You had to become Superwoman.
It becomes super for me. And what's crazy, Gladys, is that a lot of time we wait around waiting for a man or a woman to give meaning to our lives, to take us out of the situation where we are, that we need someone or something for salvation, when indeed salvation is the choice between yourself and your desire to become that you want to become. It's that need to become unreasonable, to know that if it is anything to be, it's totally up to you. Yes, it was, if I never come out of the situation, I would have never made the connection with you. So in elevating myself above my suffering, above my disempowering way of belief, I now position myself where I can attract people like yourself and everybody else that comes into my life to improve the quality of what I have available for children and everybody else. Had I stayed stuck, had I stayed in my homelessness and blaming the world, being angry, I would have never accomplished the things that I've accomplished. I would have never met you. So everything that we go through in life, at some point, we have the ability to either shift it. And part of my coaching method is a 1-degree shift. A lot of time people think they need a whole 360-degree, a 180-degree shift, when in fact, it's as simple as a 1 degree. You can change your condition by simply changing your mind.
And changing your behavior.
Absolutely. Knowing that you're enough. And I think too, part of it was that we perform a lot for everyone else. And so when no one is looking, when no one is concerned, when Superman doesn't show, we kind of feel like, well, there's really no one to do this for. When you become your priority, your mental health, your emotional, spiritual health becomes your priority, then you wake up and show up for you. And then in the process of waking up and showing up for you, the world benefits. Your children benefit.
The children benefit, and I know you're changing a lot of children's lives.
Thank you.
So you were telling me that you're doing a case study on yourself.
Yes, life is a case study. I am intrigued, fascinated by the cycle of life, individual behavior, just people in general and life, and what it is for me. Standing for the children and seeing their dynamics, being able to understand how they feel and understanding where they're feeling it from, and seeing a parent's perception and how they raise their children. And some may not always be positive, but that is pretty much all that they have, whether it stems from their belief system, which is often disempowering. And quite frankly, we can only give what we have. If I have a disempowering way of thinking and being, I can only give my child a disempowering way of thinking and being. So it's not until we elevate above those thinking, which I call, stinking thinking. I think that's Zig Ziglar who mentioned that. But it's being able to rise above that. So seeing the parents, how they treat their kids, and you have a wonderful woman who wants so much for her kid, but in reality, the way she speaks to him, the way she believes in him, the way she conducts herself around him, take away from who he or she can be, but she means well. So I looked at the dynamic of that home, and I look at how their kids show up. They show up, insecure, needy, and so much, and deteriorating and bullying others because of that's what they feel at home. And so for their kid to come into the classroom, now you have a professional teacher with a bachelor or a master's degree who assume that they're superior to that child, that they know more, that that kid needs to come subject to how they think that, that classroom needs to be, not knowing the dynamic and the makeup that makes up the understanding of that kid. And that child had to come again.
We need to come up with a method of educating the parents.
Absolutely.
Because you mentioned that they come from a good place, that they want to give their kids a better life.
Absolutely.
But kids learn by example.
Absolutely.
And how do we educate the parents?
I think we would educate the parents the same way we educate the children. Part of my education process with the children, first and foremost, I believe in providing a safe space for children to become independent thinkers by not making them wrong, by creating the space for them to identify for themselves, what is it gonna take for you to take control of this part of your life process. Education, and I think part of what we've done for so long that hasn't worked, is that we've taken responsibility for educating a kid when we should partner with children to give them a buy-in, connection, or a partnership into their educational process. Why is it important that you be educated in this aspect? And not making them wrong in the event that they make a mistake, and standing for them to show up, being fair, firm, and consistent. And I think the parents need the same grace, understanding that they have a community that would not judge them, that understand where they are, and that they're okay just as they are, and that we can develop a plan to elevate them, to help them to see where they need to go and how to map that, the direction to get to where they need to go without judgment.
How are you overcoming the challenges, for example, when a kid comes back to your school and the parent goes in another direction? Like, oh, don't listen to the teachers, they don't know what they're saying, you're gonna do this. And there's a lot of parents that go in that direction.
That was the part that intrigued me to start my case study, Gladys. because I've encountered several parents like that. And so at that point, I request for that parent and that student. So we're telling children, if a conflict arises, which sometimes conflict is good, conflict reveal where we are, who we are, what we are, and how we handle situation in a heated manner. And so we have, there's a negative connotation about conflict. And so here we are teaching children that conflict is okay. It allows you the opportunity to discover something in you that you did not know exists, and or how to solve problems beyond where you are. So a parent will say, no, if they hit you, hit them back, or don't listen to this and don't listen to that. So I've experienced that on so many levels. And what I've done is to provide a space for the parents and that child to come in and explain to them that we both want the same thing. Here you have a dynamic kid that we can teach to think independently on how to make well-informed, deliberate decisions. But in your way of thinking and being, which I understand you don't want them to be a pushover. And after speaking to parents from that standpoint and allowing them to understand if they want their children to continue to be part of our community, that is just not something that we tolerate. We do not tolerate bullying. We do not tolerate fights. And so there are better ways for them to resolve conflict. So if I have two children with that, this is my method, that I have two children who may have a disagreement and they may attempt to try and get physical, I bring them into the room and I ask questions as to why you feel the way you do, and who do you think is responsible to solve the problem that you two are facing? And I leave it to them to come with the conclusion. And as a matter of fact, now you two are now responsible to creating a program to help create an atmosphere for other children to feel safe. Now you have a responsibility to how this community is going to be improved. You're not coming here to take away from the community. You're coming to be a partner to add to that which the community, and at some point they have to know that they're good enough, that they're valuable, that they're a tool, they're a part of this system or this program, this school culture, to give them value so that you can have their buy-in.
Amazing how you're teaching them to learn how to think.
Absolutely.
And not telling them do this or do that.
Nope.
I think that's the biggest gift that you can give them.
Thank you. And it's the ability to critically think for yourself. I can tell you what you did was wrong, but I want you to discover there was no wrong or right about what happened. We're not going to make a story that you're a bad kid, he's a bad kid. The only thing that happened, a conflict arose. So now with the tools that we've been working with you, and I know, and sometimes, Gladys, our children rise above their parent teaching, and that now they got to go home and get their parents to understand or choose between what we give and what their parent give. And even in that, we want them to understand, give your parent the grace, because you getting what most of us don't get. I didn't get that. I had to learn that the hard way. So have grace with your parent, have mercy on the adults or your guardian to understand that, their journey is different from yours, and they don't have to have the mindset that you have, but you have a personal responsibility to yourself on how to cultivate the necessary skills to elevate you above the environment that you don't already want to be a part of. You don't want to live in that community. You don't want to be a part of this system. So how do you not be a part of that? You have to do differently what other people aren't willing to do. You have to elevate yourself above that thinking. And that's what they commit to do.
Where does your journey take you from here?
Oh man, what I love most about my journey, I love doing the one-on-one coaching because I've done it so many times with children, and I've learned so much from them. I've done it with the parents. I've created also a program for my staff to be able to create a community for them to develop themselves as teachers and to expand themselves beyond the classroom, whether it's another business that they need to start, I can help them with that. Whether it's another, a side gig or anything to improve the quality of life for themselves. So my journey from here is to elevate myself further by becoming the conscious present awareness that understand what is available today and who I am as a possibility, and creating that space for other men and women who wants to elevate their consciousness above the suffering. As I told you earlier, that suffering is not necessary. So through coaching, master classes, online courses, as well as retreats, that I will continue to sow that seed of equivalent faith to give an individual, whether it's a child, a parent, a couple, an individual, the ability to rise above the negative thinking that have kept them stuck for so long.
I'm gonna take you on the retreat. Gonna take you up on that.
We should, I'm thinking about doing one on a boat in November, so I would love that.
Okay, we'll
Yes.
all be there. Chantale, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for showing us your journey, for giving us an insight of what you're doing, and I look forward to changing many people's lives. So everyone, thank you so much. Until the next one, and above all, stay well and stay safe.
Thank you, Gladys.